Imagine having everything. A love about to be fulfilled, a bright future, the trust of those around you, and then losing all of it in a single moment through the betrayal of people you believed were your friends. Imagine being thrown into darkness for years for a crime you did not commit, while those who destroyed you go on to prosper. And then imagine being given the power, the wealth, and the time to make every one of them pay. Would revenge bring you peace? Would it heal the wound, or would it become a new kind of prison? This is the question that drives one of the greatest stories of betrayal and vengeance ever written. That story is The Count of Monte Cristo by Alexandre Dumas, a sweeping novel that has thrilled readers for generations with its tale of injustice, transformation, and the long pursuit of revenge. It follows a young man who is betrayed and imprisoned, who escapes after many years a completely changed person, and who returns with a fortune and a new identity to deliver justice to those who ruined him. Beneath its adventure lies a profound meditation on betrayal, transformation, and the hidden cost of vengeance. From the start, the book studies how betrayal by those we trust hurt more deeply than any other harm. The main character is not destroyed by an enemy, but by people close to him, driven by envy and ambition. The author shows how betrayal from within shatters something fundamental, a person's basic trust in the world and in others. This is a profound psychological truth. The wounds inflicted by those we love and trust cut far deeper than those from strangers, because they break not just our circumstances, but our faith in human connection. Have you ever experienced a betrayal that hurt most, not because of what was lost, but because of who did the losing? The novel also explores the way suffering transforms a person, for better and for worse. The years of imprisonment change the main character utterly. He enters as an innocent, trusting young man and emerges as something harder, more brilliant, and more dangerous. The author examines how profound suffering can forge tremendous strength and wisdom, but also how it can harden a heart and plant the seeds of obsession. The story explores the double-edged nature of transformation through pain, how the same fire that strengthens can also burn away tenderness. It raises a question worth considering. How has your own suffering changed you, and which of those changes have made you stronger, and which have made you harder? A central theme of the book is the seductive logic of revenge as justice. The main character does not see himself as merely vengeful. He comes to believe he is an instrument of divine justice, righting wrongs that the world failed to right. The author explores how the desire for revenge can dress itself up as righteousness, how a person can convince themselves that their pursuit of vengeance is a noble mission rather than a personal hunger. This is a deeply human self-deception. The story examines how easily we can justify our darkest desires by calling them justice. It invites you to consider how often the things we pursue in the name of fairness are really driven by something more personal and more wounded. The novel also examines the elaborate, all-consuming nature of an obsession with revenge. The main character dedicates years, an entire fortune, and the full force of his transformed self to the single purpose of revenge. The author shows how this purpose comes to organize his whole existence, leaving little room for anything else, including the love and the life he might have rebuilt. The story explores how revenge, however justified it may feel, demands the sacrifice of the present and the future on the altar of the past. It raises a piercing question. What is a person giving up while they pour their entire life into making someone else pay?
One of the book's most profound insights concerns the emptiness that revenge ultimately delivers. As the main character's plans unfold and his enemies fall, he discovers that revenge does not bring the peace he imagined. The destruction of others does not restore what he lost, and in pursuing it, he sometimes causes harm to the innocent. The author explores the hollowness at the heart of revenge, how it promises satisfaction but delivers a strange emptiness. This is one of the oldest and truest lessons about vengeance. The story suggests that the wound revenge is meant to heal cannot actually be healed by it. It invites you to reflect on whether getting even has ever truly given you the peace you hoped it would.
The narrative structure, built around a long arc from innocence to imprisonment to transformation to revenge, and finally to a kind of reckoning, allows the author to trace the full journey of a soul shaped by injustice. The story does not end with the completion of revenge. It continues, exploring what is left of a person once their consuming purpose is fulfilled, and whether they can find their way back to a fuller life. The author uses this extended arc to suggest that vengeance is not actually the end of the story, and that the real question is what a person becomes after the wound has been answered. It explores the difficult work of finding life again on the other side of an obsession. There is also a powerful thread about the limits of playing the role of fate. The main character comes to believe he can act as the hand of destiny, dispensing reward and punishment with perfect justice. But the story gradually reveals the danger and the arrogance in this, as his interventions produce unintended consequences and touch lives he never meant to harm. The author explores the human temptation to take ultimate judgment into our own hands, and the wisdom of recognizing the limits of our right to do so. It raises a humbling question about how much any person can truly know about what others deserve. Yet the book does not end in darkness, and this is its quiet redemption. By the close of the story, the main character begins to recognize the cost of his vengeance and to turn back toward mercy, hope, and the possibility of love. The author leaves us with the idea that even a soul consumed by revenge can find its way back to life, that the final wisdom is not vengeance, but the choice to hope again. The story suggests that the wound is healed not by making others suffer, but by eventually choosing to live and love beyond the injury. It is a hard-won hope, offered to anyone who has been tempted to let an old wrong define the rest of their days. The book also explores the enduring power of hope itself, a thread that runs from the depths of the prison to the final pages. Even in his darkest moments, something in the main character refuses to surrender entirely to despair. The author suggests that the ability to wait, to endure, and to hope is what allows a person to survive even the worst injustice. The story explores how hope is not naive optimism, but a kind of stubborn endurance, a refusal to let suffering have the final word. It invites you to consider what role hope has played in carrying you through your own hardest seasons. The transformation in prison is made possible by a profound bond with a fellow prisoner, a learned older man who becomes a mentor and a kind of father to the main character. Through this relationship, the young man receives an education that reshapes his entire mind, turning years of confinement into a strange university of the soul. The author explores how even in the darkest circumstances, a single meaningful connection and the pursuit of knowledge can transform a person utterly.
The story suggests that what saves the main character from despair in his cell is not escape, but the mind and the bond that grow there. It invites you to consider how learning and human connection have reshaped you even in your most confined seasons. The treasure that the main character eventually claims carries a symbolic weight far beyond its riches. It gives him the power to remake himself entirely, to assume new identities and move through the world as a figure of mystery. The author uses these layered disguises to explore questions of identity and self-invention, how a person wounded by their past might construct an entirely new self, and what is lost when the original person disappears behind the mask. The story examines the freedom and the danger of reinvention, the way a new identity can be both a liberation and a kind of self-erasure. It invites you to consider how much of who you present to the world is the original you and how much has been rebuilt in response to old wounds. In the end, the Count of Monte Cristo leaves you with a deeper understanding of both the appeal and the cost of revenge. It suggests that betrayal wounds the soul, that suffering can both strengthen and harden, and that vengeance, however justified, often becomes a prison of its own, one whose only true exit is the choice to hope and to love again. A story that lets you feel the full weight of a wound and the long road back from it offers a wisdom worth carrying. Books aren't just stories, they're mirrors that help us understand ourselves better. Comment below with the book you would like explored next and your own thoughts on whether revenge can ever truly bring peace. If this kind of thoughtful book analysis means something to you, consider liking and subscribing so more of it can reach you. This video uses AI-generated audio and visuals for educational purposes only. This is just one reader's personal thoughts and interpretations.